Imagine a situation in which you don't care when you will receive your next paycheck. Not because the money isn't nice, but because nothing is going to change when you do. All of your obligations are accounted for from the previous one. Does that feel like a science fiction to you? Well, for people who are going to use the following 3 budgeting rules, it's not. I completely understand if you don't believe me right now. Before I started budgeting, I wouldn't have believed myself either. The problem with budgeting methods that are shown by many finance YouTubers or finance experts in general isn't that they don't work. The problem is that they are often too rigid, too restrictive, very time-consuming and so unfun to do regularly that you will give up way before the process can show any meaningful results. Because if you want to do any process consistently and with good results, it needs to be quick, effective, and it has to let you breathe. The good news is, that's what this whole video is all about. At the very beginning, I mentioned that there are only 3 steps that you need to include in your regular routine. And while that's completely true, there are 2 extra steps you need to take at the start of your budgeting journey. Imagine it like bike riding. Before every ride, you should check your tire pressure and lubricate your chain. But to even start riding, you need to first go to the bike shop and buy the bike in the first place. You get the point. Firstly, you need to figure out how much money you have at this very second. Go through all of your bank accounts, liquid saving accounts, and even your wallet. Summarize every single cent you have. Do not forecast what money are you going to receive, and also exclude any money that you have in long-term investments. You should always budget only the money that you have available to spend right now. When you have all your money gathered, you need to set up your budgeting categories. While you can set them up as narrow as possible, at least at the very start, I would recommend you to not overcomplicate things. If you follow the advice in my previous video, you have a rough idea of what you are spending your money on, and you can use that information to set up your categories. But in the meantime, try to think of what your most common types of expenses are. I can almost definitely help you with some of them. Essentials, like groceries or bills. Fun things, like eating out and subscriptions. You get the point. Do not stress over the fact that something might be missing from your list. During the budgeting process and when you use it afterwards, new categories will surface, and you'll just add them when they do. In fact, I deliberately didn't tell you about one type of category you need to set, and in my opinion, it's the most important one. But for them to make sense, I need to present the 3 basic rules you need to follow. By the way, it is fair to say that I didn't invent these rules. They are based on the method developed by the creators of a software called YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget. It's incredible budgeting software that I use every single day, but you can very well follow this method even with Excel spreadsheet or pen and paper. I'm in no way affiliated with them. YNAB uses 4 rules of budgeting, but the 4th one is just basically a product of following the 3 before, so I'm just going to present those. The first one is really simple. You just take all the money you've gathered at the start and divide it among the categories you've created. There is no right or wrong way to do that. It fully depends on your needs and priorities. No one can tell you what should you do with your money, although a lot of people will try. Just keep in mind one thing. There can be room for anything, but there can be room for everything. So always make sure you prioritize and use each dollar in the way that you really want. Your goal is to divide every single cent. Don't be tempted to exclude some of the money from the budget for emergencies. We will account for them in a slightly different way, and I promise it will make all sense after you learn about the 3rd rule. When you have all the money divided, as I mentioned, you can really start using the budget to your advantage. Before every purchase, consult the category in the budget that relates to such a purchase to see if you have the money available. No money available, no purchase. When you buy anything, log the expense and deduct it from the available money in that category. Do you already see the benefit of this? Before using this method, you would see that you have $1,000 in your bank account and take that as an open invitation to go visit that new restaurant in town. Now, you will see that while you indeed have $1,000 in your bank account, the money available for eating out is zero, and you will save that money instead of wasting it on a purchase you cannot afford. Now, you might ask, what if I overspend a category? Or what if I want to buy something that I don't have money budgeted for? Is my budget wrecked? Nope. That's what rule number 2 is all about. If a budget is so rigid that it doesn't expect rainy days to happen, well, then it's not a good budget. That thing happens way more often than you'd expect actually. Let me refer to one thing I've already mentioned. Budgeting is about prioritization, not restriction. You budget to align your spending with your priorities, not to torture yourself. So, what does it really mean when you overspend a category, or when you want to make a purchase outside of your budget? That you failed as a financial planner? Of course not. It only means your priorities have shifted, either by force or by your decision. So when that happens, no worries, make the purchase. But you cannot conjure money out of thin air. It needs to come from somewhere. And I bet you already see where I'm going with this. When you overspend a category, you need to find money for it. And you guessed it, in one of the other categories. You can do that after the spend, or ideally find the money before you make the purchase. By doing this, you essentially say, well, this new thing is now more important than the one I originally thought. Nothing more. So don't stress over it. There are, however, ways to prepare for such things in advance. And that's what rule number 3 is all about. Has it ever happened to you that your washing machine broke at the very worst time possible? Did you even have to go into debt to resolve such situation? Well, if you follow this rule, that will never happen again. If you watch pretty much any personal finance creator, they will eventually tell you that you need 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved in your emergency fund. That's way better than doing nothing, but also way worse than using this method. Because this method will completely reframe how you think about money. And it goes all the way back to rule number 1. Do you remember how you planned for your monthly expenses and how you assigned jobs to all your money? Well, let's think about what a monthly expense really is. Everyone understands that the monthly rent payment is a monthly expense. So is the electricity bill. However, if you really want to succeed financially, I need you to change the way you think about monthly expenses. Let's take the broken washing machine as an example. When you bought the new one, you spent $600, and I bet you thought about it as a $600 ad hoc expense, right? Well, it's not that. The $600 ad hoc payment is, in fact, a summary of 5 years' worth of $10 monthly expenses that you failed to budget for. Please, if you take just one thing from this video, take this. Even though you just bought a new washing machine, you should immediately start to incrementally budget for a new one that you are going to buy in 5 or however many years. That way, when it does break down, you have the money ready for a new one and you won't be caught off guard. You already put the money away for this, and the same goes for any spending that you will need to do in the future. If you embrace irregular expenses and treat them as your monthly expenses, they will never stress you again, and you won't spend the money that you really do not have. And that's the type of category that I originally hid from you when I explained the principle of budgeting in the first part of the video. It's the type of category that you budget your money in monthly, but you don't actually expect to spend the money in that very month. So, in our washing machine case, let's expect that the lifespan of the product is, let's say, 5 years, and it costs you $600. If you divide 600 by 5 years and then 12 months, you can see that your real monthly cost of having a washing machine is $10. And that's the money you should regularly budget in its own category. And it will just sit there until you need it the next time. To summarize all this, stop thinking in terms of how much money you have in your bank account and start thinking in terms of how much money you have for every specific thing. You will find that the two are not even remotely similar. If you apply these 3 rules, I promise your financial situation will improve. But if you want to really master your finances, there are a few more ideas and principles that you need to understand. And for that, I've got a video right here.